content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you.
What's good, everybody? I'm your host, man. I'm the G with the PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where the black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chases. Now, before I get things started, I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel. So let's start off that process right now. I want to give a shout out to Antonio Feria, Papa Didas, Barry Little, Gemini Getting Knowledge, Alan Wiley, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, The Final Watcher, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, 77 Base X, Craig, Omni Americana, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Brian Peaks, Michael Ross, Nelso, Apex Prowler, Kareen Henry, Doc LaRock, Julius Ferguson, B. Hillfire, J. Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Face, Mark Swift, Show Me, Black Dog, Odd Collard, Raphael Brown, Deanne, Donald Watts, Ryan Jackson, hiphop.catv, Coach DC, The Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Ominous Black, I Am Black Man, Nichita, True King 337, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, Cal J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, Ab Media 83, Brian McMurray, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Artisan MC, Mr. Heat, Afro Analyst, Isa Abdul Zahir, Sir Anthony, MLR, Charles Rogers, Universal 178, Blacksword 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, See Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Author Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, WPR1, Roguish the Billmonger, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle Jr. I also want to give a special shout out to Forrest Windu. May you rest in heaven, brother. And on the Patreon side, I'd like to give a shout out to Excalibur, Jason Warren, Soul Pen, Anu219, Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Quaku217, S. Haywood, Dragon59, Supreme Ibmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Mo Mal, William Ruffin, and Asangwa. Shout out to all y'all, man. I appreciate all of your help and your support for helping me keep things going, man. You deserve a round of applause, man, for helping me do this, man. I appreciate y'all and everything you do, man. Appreciate y'all, man. So, before I move on to the regular business, if you're interested in becoming a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here's how.
What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless.
All right, I'm back. Before I get things started, the first thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out to BGS, man. He deserves a shout out, man. You know I rock with you, bruh. You my dude, man. If you don't get no more rude, You know what I'm saying? So let me give this man some fanfare. Shout out to BGS, man. He's the individual who gave me the article. He emailed me this article, and I thought that it would be, something appropriate to talk about because, Biden got elected into the presidency. And, prior to that, there was this big movement, this big push for reparations, and it kind of fell flat on its face. And so now you don't hear people talking about ADOS anymore. You don't hear talking about FBA anymore. It's as if, the push for reparations has become stillborn. And we have to ask ourselves, well, why is that? And, so shout out to BGS. Also, shout out to Lateef Edwards, man. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. And look, this topic is not interesting. It's not titillating. It's not a conversation about black women, but it's a conversation that's important. It's a topic and a discussion point that is integral to what's fair and what's just related to us. What's just? We just want our just due. We don't want more than what other people are getting or receiving. We just want equal opportunities commensurate with that of other demographics in the United States. We expect to get what people say we deserve. So we have to have it. We need it. We have to have it. We need it. But anyway, so let me just get right to what I'm about to discuss. And it is basically how theft at a scale that's unprecedented is behind the underfunding of HBCUs. And shout out to the donation. Somebody just hit me with a $10. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So this is an article that was published by NPR, which is National Public Radio. And, they do pretty good pieces, okay? And so the issue is centered around Tennessee State University. I know it's a brother in the chat that said the same thing happened to Maryland, where one Maryland HBCU was also granted, some sort of settlement related to their underfunding. Okay, so this is a picture of Tennessee State University's campus, and they're in the news, man. They're in the news because they haven't received what they're supposed to receive related to the funding that they're supposed to get by law. So, the article says basically Tennessee could owe a historically black university more than $500 million after it withheld funding for decades. That's important for you to get, man. For decades, this institution was underfunded. So a bipartisan legislative committee determined last month that the state failed to adequately fund Tennessee State University in matched land grants going all the way back to the 1950s, costing the public university between $150 and $544 million. That's a lot of cash, man. Okay? That's a lot of money. But that's also a lot of variance in between, the high and the low number. So I don't know exactly how the accounting is going in this particular case. But, let's get on to the story because it just demonstrates institutional racism, okay? And a lot of people assume that racism is something that only takes place interpersonally and that black people are where they are only because of a lack of effort and moral initiative. And that's just not an accurate description or an accounting of reality. The reality is that institutional racism is alive and well, and it does prevent black people across the board from being able to function and flourish and thrive within the context of American culture and society. Okay. So anyway, the article basically says when the school was founded, the federal government designated it to be a land grant institution. And it did the same thing with the University of Tennessee. Now, under the program, the state of Tennessee was required to match the federal money sent to the schools each year. So if the federal government were to give money to a particular institution, then the state of Tennessee was supposed to match those proceeds. That's what's supposed to happen. The federal government gives money, Tennessee also gives money. Okay? But in the case of TSU, the state did not match the funds dollar for dollar for decades. They just didn't do it. They didn't see fit to do it. And the legislative committee that is dealing with this case, they basically issued a press release or a news release to, verify this fact. Okay. Now, Tennessee State isn't the only historically black college or university missing out on state funds. So Maryland recently finalized a $577 million settlement to resolve a lawsuit alleging that the state had underfunded its 4 HBCUs. Now, there's a brother by the name of Andre Perry. He's a senior fellow at Brookings Institution, and he's written about Maryland's battle with the inequality in public higher education. He blames institutional racism for what he believes is a pervasive lack of funding at HBCUs. So the federal government gives the money, but the state just refuses to give the money. It doesn't matter if this is an explicit attempt or an explicit snub at African-American students, or whether implicitly it's just something that they found to be insignificant. Whatever the case may be, it still smacks of institutional racism. Still smacks of it, okay? And so Andre Perry says basically we should assume that it is race, because many of the other institutions, the PWIs, which are predominantly white institutions, they get their full funding. So why does the primarily white institution get all of its funding, but the predominantly black institution, the HBCU, why does it not receive its funding? Who's making those decisions? I can guarantee you it's not a legislative body full of black folks that are doing this. It's a legislative body full of Southern white folks. So basically, Andre Perry says this is a step at a scale that is unprecedented. But he also says that funding should be scrutinized across the United States at every HBCU. Because if this is happening in Tennessee, it's happening in Maryland, who's to say it's not happening elsewhere? That's the question, right? Now, he also goes on to say this is what fuels the economy, a highly educated workforce. So if we're denying black students, black institutions, state funding, we're throttling the economy, he says. Now, I mean, we all know what the traditional story is. I mean, the traditional story is, you become educated, you pick a career, you enter into a profession, and your skills are supposed to be able to help you move into a life of prosperity, or at least, a comfortable, level of living by entry into the middle class. But what happens when institutions that are designed to help you function, flourish, and thrive aren't receiving the full funding that they're supposed to receive? What happens when that happens? It means you're at a disadvantage. And I do know that there is a special kind of life that you live and a special kind of education that you receive when you attend an HBCU. You don't have to worry about your peers ostracizing you on account of your race. You form vital networks and friendships that last you a lifetime. You can't get these same kind of networks at primarily white institutions. I mean, you can get some networks, but they're not going to have the same kind of qualitative booms as it is when you attend an HBCU. But these institutions are designed to help people who we know have been disadvantaged, disenfranchised, move up the economic floor or climb up the economic ladder. But what happens when they're not funded the way that they're supposed to be? So anyway, this is what Perry has to say about how segregation laws created funding disparities, not only in the lower levels, but also in higher education. He says, look, since the 50s, since Brown versus Board, the federal government ordered states to desegregate their schools. And most people just think that occurred in the K-12 arena, but it also occurred for higher education institutions. And by the way, most HBCUs are in southern states. And so there's just been a reticence to desegregate higher ed based on funding. And so many of these states created funding formulas that regularly just shortchanged HBCUs. So, you know, in an ideal world, all the schools would be desegregated and everyone would attend the universities where, you know, they are close to, and even white students would attend in acknowledgement of the fact that it was a historically black college and university, but to still see that there's value there because it's a state institution that's being funded as equally as any other. But that's not what's happened. It's not what's happened in K through 12. It's also not what's happened in higher education. It just hasn't occurred. Many school systems are just as segregated as they were during the 50s. But, you know, I digress. Now, what are the academic consequences of this? He says, well, when any university doesn't have the adequate funds, they're not able to produce the kind of high-cost programs that might be in demand. And he says, so I'll give you an example. Engineering. To run an engineering school, it costs a lot of money. And so if you're coming up short, guess what? You're not going to have an engineering program, or it's going to just be theoretical, and you won't have the equipment, you won't have the facilities to have people get the best out of that degree. In addition, you're not able to innovate. But what you're seeing in HBCUs is not just that they're not able to innovate or add certain degree programs, their facilities are literally deteriorating. I mean, have you, 2 years ago, I went to Howard University. Now, this is a flagship HBCU. Now, I don't know what DC is doing in relation, because it's a fully federal, district, right? The District of Columbia, okay? But still, that school looks like it's falling apart in certain areas. Literally. It's not upgraded at all. The dorms look old. The infrastructure looks like it's decaying. These are all issues that are not taken up by institutions that could actually fund these schools. But, I digress. So they're not able to keep up with the competition. And so because you get a lowering of standards, students don't attend. They don't perceive these places as places that will get them ahead in the marketplace when they graduate. Because, there is something to be said about where you graduated. Does it have some sort of social capital in the marketplace in which you're looking for a job? Okay? So one popular argument is that these institutions are failing because the alumni actually don't give back, because the people who've attended don't reach back, and they don't, set up endowments, and they don't donate. But this is not the case. So when people, this is Andre Perry, when people say this is a problem of people giving, what they're really saying is we're going to blame black people for the lack of funding in black institutions, abdicating the state's responsibility to do so. That's all that it's saying. We need to expose this lack of funding. It's really theft, at a scale that is unprecedented. Because if the money's not going to the institution the way that it's supposed to be according to law, then where is the money going? More than likely, the money is going all to the PWI or to finding other places to allocate and put the money. So he says that's why this is just horrible, these findings, and we should go deeper. We should do an investigation at every state for every HBCU, and we should assume that they're being robbed. And this is a problem. Again, the whole conversation surrounding reparations has been dropped. And for what? To what end and to what aim? And why not black men in this space continuously pushing the narrative of reparations? I just don't understand it. I don't know. I mean, I guess, it just fizzled out. People, stopped thinking about it. I guess having Biden in office is reparations. Having a black woman vice president is reparations enough for some. That's a symbolic gesture towards inclusion or something along those lines. I just don't know. But anyway, man, I'm about to take a break and I'm going to talk about one more topic and then I'm going to get out of here. Okay? So let me take a break real quick. Then I'll be back with the next topic, man. I'll be back. Okay, man. The last thing I want to talk about today is, more business along the lines of black men hurting each other and destroying each other and getting into trouble with the law. I want to talk about this young brother, man. His name is YFN Lucci. And, to just give you some brief comments about it, it's not going to be long, man. But I mean, if you're, in that younger generation and you listen to hip hop music, man, you know about YFN Lucci, man. Real name Rayshawn Bennett, and he's basically been charged with racketeering. Okay, racketeering. He's also, been charged with murder, assault, firearm, and gang activity charges. This is a young brother, man, making a lot of cash, man. He's going 3 times platinum, okay? And he basically was linked to a murder case of a 28-year-old Atlanta resident by the name of James Adams. And there's, other suspects who are arrested or were arrested in connection to that death as well, okay? So basically, the police claim that YFN Lucci drove 3 blood gang members into rival gangs' territory, got into a shootout, and then killed James Adams and put him out of his vehicle. And then another victim who's not actually named or disclosed was reportedly shot in the stomach. Okay, now everybody knows you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But come on, man, like, why do black men, especially black men making money, continuously find themselves in these kind of crazy positions, man? That's what I want to ask, man. Why are we continuing to hurt each other like this, man? I mean, there is going to be conflict among black men. But this culture that we have where, we have to settle our differences by insulting each other, by disrespecting each other, by engaging in death-dealing kinds of violence, man, we need to try to put an end to this, man. Now, I thought that, the resolving of the conflict between Jeezy and Gucci, which could have got out of control. And in one instance, it did get out of control and resulted in a young man's death. Now, we already know we got the highest black on black murder rate. Murder rate in the country. And I know there's a lot of pressure on us, but we got to find a way to sublimate our conflicts, man, as opposed to just resorting to gunplay. And that's all I want to say about that, man. I don't know what to do about this. I don't know, what we can do to get these young people, man, to understand this ain't the way to go. But it's sad, man. Because now you got a young man, I'm pretty sure this man has children. He has, people who rely on him for business. It's just sad, man. A man's life is lost, and another man's life is, for the most part, going to be lost because he engaged in this reckless behavior. We got to do better than this, man. We have to change and turn things around. I don't know what we can do to do it, but I think we need to try to find a way to reach to these young people, man, and tell them this ain't the way, bro. This ain't the way, man. So anyway, man, I'm not going to hold anybody. I know you got things to do. It's a Tuesday evening. This is my first time being back, man, on OBS, getting my feet wet again. But I have more content for you tomorrow. So until that time, man, I'll holler at y'all, man. Peace.